Hello and welcome to a Monday edition of the Osceola Seminole Sidelines. My name is Pat Burnham, and I am joined by Osceola senior writer Kurt Weiler, who is fresh off a trip to Ireland, and Osceola football analyst and former FSU offensive lineman Mark Salva, who likes stumbling so much he's still there. So, all right, guys, you don't have jet lag, Mark, yet, so we won't ask you about that. But Kurt, how's it feel to be back across the pond? And obviously, what was the atmosphere like over in Dublin for the game?
I mean, it was a great time. I had about 48 hours there. I had some travel issues and didn't get in until Friday afternoon, but I made the most of my time for sure and had a good time in spite of the result. It made me want to go back and explore the city more for sure. And it's I mean, Mark can speak to it. It's a crazy place for a game. The stadium's very cool. I mean, our press box was just out in the open amongst fans. Like, it just had individual desks. It was I felt like it was in the people, which I don't often feel like at sporting events. I often feel isolated, and so it was a nice welcome change of pace.
Well, I think it is cool when you got open air press boxes when the weather's conducive to allow you to feel the vibration of the stadium, hear the noise in full. When we're up at Doak Campbell Stadium in the press box, you don't get to hear a whole lot. But anyway, yeah, listen, guys, this is our second post game wrap up show where we have a chance to sit down after 48 hours and kind of collect our thoughts and have a chance to rewatch the game. And I know, Kurt, you have not because you've been traveling. So you're obviously, we understand that. Mark, I know you were going to try to rewatch the game today. Fellas, I'll tell you this. The great majority of the time when I rewatch a game, I feel much better about what I was critical of than I did on the Saturday night of the game. I did not feel better after watching this game. I did not feel – I mean, it actually made me feel worse. I have a lot more questions about this football team now than I did going into the season. But, yeah, some of my notes, I thought this was a poorly prepared football team going into this game. They actually poorly motivated. We saw very little fight. If you go watch the film, and we'll get into it a little bit later, listen, they got pushed around up front on both sides of the ball. It was not a pretty day. It was not a pretty rewatch. We're starting to get some answers on this football team, guys. And right now, I don't think we're liking the ones we're getting. And we got a lot of questions. We'll talk about that. But Kurt, we have not had a chance to get your opinion other than in your post-game article, which is at theosceola.com. But just give us, you were there. Mark and I have talked about it to some extent. Didn't get to talk about it a lot because we had some connection issues and on the post-game show. But just your overall thoughts on what you saw. And then we'll break it down to offense and defense.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's kind of what I wrote in my column. I'm not stunned that they lost. I thought Georgia Tech, I mean, there was a bowl team last year that brought back a lot of those bowl players and brought in a very good defensive coordinator. So, yes, there were real questions, especially about that defense, but there was always room for improvement. I didn't think they would improve immediately nearly as much as they did, and that's a testament to Tyler Santucci, who, I mean, I have to imagine is trending up in the coaching world. But it's worrisome, the loss itself isn't worrisome because losses happen. The loss was worrisome to me because what I thought were going to be the strengths of the team didn't look like strengths of the team on Saturday. It didn't look like the team we saw all preseason. We had to watch a lot of practice, and I can assure you, I would not have been as high on the team as if what we saw on Saturday was kind of representative of what we saw all preseason. So that creates the weird anomaly of what went wrong. It feels like it can't just be all the weird factors, the Ireland, the week 0. Yep. It feels like it has to go beyond because you can't those excuses can't cover how big a discrepancy there was between what we thought we'd get and what we got.
Yeah, listen, and there's on social media and on website thread pages, the local media that covers Florida State, including us, is getting killed about our takes on the offensive and defensive lines, and particularly those two position groups. And I tell everybody that will listen. I think it's very important to take into account that we do not get to see live tackle football. We see everything but the scrimmages, and what we saw from the defensive line during camp was unbelievably impressive. And we thought the offensive line, based off how they practice and what we saw in how they practice, looked like they were going to be the strength of this offense. So Kurt's right. We are shocked as anybody. I think anybody that covers the beat is shocked. I saw some other guys from other sites make similar comments to where we were all thrown off. But I think it's very important for people to know that you really don't know about a football team until they play live tackle 11-on-11 football. They only had 3 scrimmages. We saw no tackling to the ground, no really live drill like you do in football, maybe outside a half line inside. So, listen, I think everybody that covers this team was shocked. Listen, you had Nick Saban go on and say this is a top 5 personnel team in all of college football before the game on College Game Day or on McAfee's drunken binge in Ireland. And you had the assistant director of the Senior Bowl saying it was going to be the best defensive line in all of college football. He came out with a tweet. So this was professionals. This was not just, I think we're pretty professional at what we do, but this was people in and outside the football program that had access to the football program. We had Kevin Carter break down what he saw in Tallahassee. So everybody's eyes saw the same thing going into the season. Nobody's eyes saw what we saw on Saturday in the preseason. So, Mark, I know obviously you were at the game as well. You've had a chance to rewatch the game. What are your overall thoughts before we break it down to the offense and defense?
Yeah, let me say this first. Okay, so I've been in and around Dublin the last 2 days since the game. A ton of Florida State people here. And the comments I'm hearing, everybody's down on this team. I want everybody to know that nobody feels worse than those guys in the locker room and that coaching staff. All right, that's number one. Because that's all I heard the last 2 days.
It's been bad.
It's been bad. And I, nobody feels worse than those guys. They put in so much time and work. I respect those guys for the amount of work that they put in since January, since that last game. That's number one. Understand that. Number two, it's funny, that Georgia game, that bowl game, didn't count until now because we haven't won a football game in 2 games. Okay. If we would have won, that game didn't matter, but now it really does matter because now we haven't won in 2 games. And I think that's a distinction that we got to put that aside. Who this football team is right now. They're 0-2. They're 0 in their last 2 games, right?
Yeah.
All that being said, okay, we lost a lot, not just in personnel and not just in ability, but we lost a lot in leadership. When you think about Jared Verse and Braden Fisk up front, they were really good players. And physically, in terms of ability, we've replaced those guys. But not up here. On the second level, we lost Tatum Bethune and Kalen DeLoach. All right? We got guys with ability on that level, but not up here. We lost Jerian Jones and Renardo Green. Right?
Yep.
They're in the NFL right now. Right? So we lost leadership there. And then we lost probably the best leader we've had since, I don't know, Jameis Winston. Right? And Jordan Travis. Yeah. Talking about Jordan Travis on the offensive side of the ball. And those 2 wide receivers had big personalities, and Trey Benson had a big personality.
Well, right? Listen, and those 2 receivers were they were legitimate playmakers, which is
of course. And we haven't replaced them in terms of ability for sure. But that wasn't why. My point is this. This is a totally different football team. And it now we have a baseline for where these guys are. Okay. All that being said, when I saw the game on Saturday night, and I've rewatched it here in the last 2 hours, and really slowed it down and looked at it several times, there was a lot of things that I can say can be corrected. Not the least of which is effort. Georgia Tech's plan was incredible. They had us down to a T. Their plan was really good, and we did not adjust well. Okay. I was right what I saw on Saturday. They loaded the box. We were in 12 and 11 and personnel a lot, in 21 personnel a lot. So they played single safety defense, and we're blocking 8 and 9 every play. I don't care how good your offensive line is. They can't block. One guy can't block 2 guys. Yeah. Okay. They were inserting guys in those gaps, and those safeties were very aggressive in the box, and they did not respect the outside pass. Those slants we hit in the fourth quarter, they were there all game. You saw him hit a couple of hitches to Malik on the outside, those were there all game because those safeties were ignoring everything. They were just filling those gaps inside. You know, on the other side of the ball, their offensive line is well coached. Those jokers not only are coached well, they had great angles, they had great double teams, they had great effort, and we did not match their intensity or their effort. Okay, so a lot of those cutbacks and stuff. I mean, if you look at it, you know, you always tell a back when you're running the zones or count whatever that you want to get into the line of scrimmage before you make your cut. Well, if your defensive line is doing their job, they can't get into the line of scrimmage, right? So getting knocked off the ball in those double teams, what helps get rid of those double teams is those linebackers filling those other gaps to make those guys come off. But we were not reestablishing the line of scrimmage, and they did. They established the line of scrimmage. That held true. But really the defensive line had some issues, but it was the biggest problems were look how our safeties attacked the run, and look how their safeties attacked the run. Look how they tackled. Look how we tackled. Well, look at their linebackers, and look at our linebackers, how they attacked the run. There was a lot of indecision. It looked like we played slow on both sides of the ball. Even watch the defensive line when the ball snapped. They're still in their stance a lot of times, right? We played slow, and I think, you know, with their motions and their shifts and them faking the jet sweeps all the time, kind of held our guys flat-footed a little bit. And if shifting in motions is going to cause that, guess what? We're getting ready to play Bill O'Brien, an NFL guy, and that's all they do is shift in motion. So you better get that corrected. And that used to be a problem, like early in the year last year and the year before. That was always a problem, right? We'd always say the linebackers are getting lost in coverage and stuff because of the shifts in the motions. A lot of that happened this time around, right?
Yep.
And then you had a quarterback that played out of his mind. You know, so you put all that stuff together, right? And one more thing. Our inability to throw the ball down the field and make those safeties not respect the run or not respect the pass and not be so aggressive, that we weren't able to do that. And so several things got to change. Effort, maybe simplifying things to the point where, you know, guys can play fast and effort.
Yeah, listen, I made a note of it. When I was at USF, we used to have this thing, and a lot of teams do. We have it called Bloody Tuesday, where you got 8 to 16 live reps of inside. Florida State practices tomorrow. They need to buckle it up, go out there, get them 8 to 16 with good on good live reps of inside, find out who wants to play football. My biggest concern, as you said, Mark, was effort. This team did not play motivated in any other than maybe the fourth quarter when let me clarify what I mean by the effort. Yeah. Okay, it's not that they weren't trying hard; it's that they did the fight. They didn't match the intensity or the fight of the other team. Yep. Right? They played. At least they thought they were playing hard, but it was misdirected. Right. It was misdirected, and they got this guy played faster.
Yeah. I wonder, and y'all can tell me you think I'm off base. I wonder if and this doesn't apply to everybody. I'm not throwing it out at the whole team, but certain players who've been around for a while, who were on teams that beat LSU the last 2 week ones, saw Georgia Tech and thought they had it in the bag.
Oh, I thought there were some people. The mentality was, hey, we're Florida State, Georgia Tech's this, Georgia Tech's that. They're supposed to be bad on defense. Listen, I've pulled up clips where certainly they were not giving these guys playing like they respected these guys, not straining to do this. I got a clip of the offensive line where they've got a chance to roll Zeke Biggers 40 yards downfield to FSU's offensive linemen, and instead of doing it and proving a point and making that kid know that he was in a fight all day long, they kind of brother-in-lawed him over out of the way. And I mean, listen, and here Mark, you mentioned leadership, or Kurt, you did. I think you've probably can identify. I don't know who. I think Darius Washington, Maurice Smith. I think you've got some guys that you can find leadership on offense, right? I think those guys can rally the offense. I can't identify a leader on defense, and I think I'm not going to get into specifics because I know what everybody's answer has been to me on who the leader should be, and I got that there's some strangeness in those guys being your leaders.
I don't like I didn't have, outside of really linebackers, many questions about this defense coming into this offseason with all they lost. The one that emerged as more guys talked, a lot of guys, when you talk to them about Pat Payton, Azaria Thomas, Fentrell Cypress, guys you would expect to be leaders on that defense, talk about they're the leaders by example. And you need those players. You need the players that. You also need those vocal leaders who are going to get after their teammates on the sideline. And you're right. That is where I question who is that. And this week has to be, I think, if you didn't already know, where you find that out. Yeah, you absolutely need that person.
Yeah, like I said, I tried on tape to find somebody, that you could say identify as a leader, and I don't think that I didn't find it on defense. I think you can find it on offense. And listen, on defensively, you got to get better because particularly against the run, because you couldn't play worse. But I do think they need to, as Mark said, step up the level of intensity and play. Braden Fisk and Jared Verse and all those guys are not walking out of that tunnel next week. Your team is what we saw it was this past weekend. You've got guys that have length, talent, speed. What they got to do is show up with the mentality that they want to play major college football, play tough, don't get blown off the ball. We saw a ton of that. And listen, they've got some deficiencies, and we'll get into those. But I want to start with the offense, guys. We didn't know what to expect from the Florida State offense with DJU as the quarterback. We said it was a bridge under construction. It certainly it took on a heavy run game, even in the passing game. I think that there was a graphic ESPN shared where 10 of the first 12 passes, the depth was behind the line of scrimmage. Certainly we saw the last drive where DJU had some success throwing the ball in that what ended up being the last drive of Florida State of the game. What do you do if you're Mike Norvell with your offense now you've seen DJU, particularly I'm talking at the quarterback position? How do you structure this offense around DJU after one game?
Well,
Mark?
I'll say this. You got to give him credit. He those 2 4th down throws and the 3rd and 10 before that, they were clutch throws. Mm-hmm. And there were throws that were there all game. Like I said, earlier, those slants were there. We didn't make the safeties respected at all. Mike in his play calling has got to figure out a way and find some things that he feels confident calling when teams are doing that to us. Because until we make them pay, we're going to keep saying that. Okay. Shane said that Santucci is usually a 2 safety guy. And at times they did line it, but the majority of the time, they were rolling that guy down, playing man coverage, and playing either one safety or no safeties. Okay, and we got to make teams pay. When I was coaching, we begged for teams to play us that way. We begged for them to play us that way because that meant we were throwing a big play. We were going to max protect, and we were going to get Vanover or Kevin Knox or one of those guys down the field, and we're going to throw a bomb and we're going to complete them better than 50% of the time, right? Or Charlie was going to break the pocket and run for big yards. So, Mike tried to counter that a little bit by throwing a lot of the screens. Okay, and that is an answer. And a couple of those broke a little bit, right? But look, you have to. He's got to find something that he feels comfortable throwing. And look, DJ didn't play that bad. There was some stuff there that was coming open that maybe protection broke down or they brought one too many guys and we couldn't block it. And, it was either an errant throw or his arm got hit or something weird happened and he couldn't hit it. But we have to make people pay if they're going to play us like that.
The irony with DJ in his performance is really kind of how he performed in terms of where he had success passing and less success passing kind of goes against what the scouting report has been historically. Historically, people have talked about the deep balls and they've had concerns about the intermediate stuff. And on that drive, it was a bunch of intermediate stuff that I thought he ran very effectively. And then in that third quarter, I think was when he had a few chances on those shots they took that he missed on. So, I agree wholeheartedly that like DJ's not why you lost that game. And I'm not convinced. We'll see if he's a quarterback that can. And I don't know if we felt he needed to be a quarterback that won you games. I thought we were high enough on the supporting talent that if he just managed the game well, avoided turnovers, made throws that he needed to make, that would be enough with what else they had around him. And obviously was not the true on Saturday, but that I would say was not his fault. I mean, the irony is we've praised a lot Mike Norvell with the adjustments he makes. I even at 14-14 at halftime, I was still fairly confident because of what we've seen Mike Norvell do as a halftime adjuster and Adam Fuller do as a halftime adjuster for that matter. He waited so long to commit to the passing game more for that drive where I think DJ had like 82 passing yards on that drive and they had like 3 or 4 rushing yards. It was basically all passing because they kept trying to run unsuccessfully. He waited so long that they didn't ever get to see how GT would adjust because that ended up being their last drive of the game because GT got it with, 6.5 left, and they took off that last 6.5 minutes. So he waited too long to adjust, and he never got to see. I mean, I imagine if they'd gotten the ball back next time, they might have had more success running the ball because GT would finally have had to respect the passing game.
Yeah, listen, I agree with you, Kurt. I don't think you could put this on DJU as a primary guy. Obviously, I mean, everybody played a role, but it was certainly this game was decided up front by Georgia Tech.
Here's something else you got to consider too. And honestly, I got to give my wife this credit for this because she brought it up. She said we're running the same plays over and over, and she's right. Our inventory of plays was not what it usually is. So you got to believe a factor in that is such a new cast. How much of the playbook are we able to actually have access to?
And how much does Mike trust them with the receivers and DJU with what he's got on offense?
100%. And so you're kind of limited to maybe what you can do that you've practiced that you feel good about.
Yep.
And so that's definitely a factor. That's why I think moving forward, we're going to have, as this team builds, we're going to be able to build that inventory as the season goes on, as they become more comfortable doing some things. But you just can't draw plays on a sideline and try to run them. No. These are, if you didn't practice it on Tuesday and Wednesday, it's not in the game plan. That's plain and simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I tweeted at halftime, and I think it's kind of hard to argue from the first half play calling. I mean, Mike Norvell talked confidently about DJ Uiagalelei all offseason. He didn't call that first half looking like he was confident in what and I think the receivers too. I think the receivers play a part in that, could do.
Yeah. And I got a question because this is a question that was asked of me, and I'd be interested in getting both y'all's takes on it. I haven't decided one way or the other, but I was asked, based on a run-heavy offense with a very short passing game, and they referenced the 10 passes for the average behind the line of scrimmage. And, listen, I think I'm not advocating that there be a quarterback controversy by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think that DJ is somewhat limited in the run game as the quarterback. He does not run with particular enthusiasm would be the best way I could put it. I think he's going to be a guy that can get you your first 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 2nd 1, 2nd and 2. Georgia Tech did not worry about him in the zone read game, right? I mean, we saw Romello Height made a couple plays chasing down the counter or zone read from behind. If you're going to do that offense, do you slowly start to work Brock in because he brings a different component to your running offense? As far as his own read, do you get him some reps in games? I'm not. This is just a question we got based on what we saw up until the fourth quarter when they started throwing the ball downfield. That was what this question was predicated off of.
I think if Mike, go ahead, Kurt.
Go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think Mike's, a good enough coach that if Brock is ready to play, that he would maybe play him.
Okay.
Right. I think that if it would give him maybe a shot if he's not, but he's also a guy that I'm sure trying to create some continuity on offense, because that's the biggest thing. That's one of the biggest things right now, right?
Yep.
We got to find some continuity in this offense, and so doing that can maybe mess that up, So I guess I want to say there's two things to it here. Is Brock ready to take those snaps, and only they know that? And would it hurt the continuity of the offense just to throw him in there just because he can run a little bit?
Yep.
To me, I don't think you part-time Brock. I don't think you make a move to Brock until you're making a full-time move, because I wonder, a guy like DJ with what he's been through in his career, I can't imagine that would instill a bit of confidence. And so I don't think you make a full-time move at this time. So I think I lean no, unless you're willing to commit full time. Because the
Okay.
continuity, I agree, would just be a mess if you were trying to back and forth them. And I mean, we saw how that went with Jordan and McKenzie in 2021
Yeah, well, yeah, that and McKenzie.
It's not A to
totally
B, but
because once you do that, you've damaged, for lack of a better term, you've damaged DJ. Once you do that.
Well, all right. I just wanted to ask because I was asked, see what you guys thought. All right, so moving on to taking a look at the running backs. I don't know that. I don't know that it mattered really. I thought the running back rotation was somewhat strange when you have 5 guys lining up at running back in the first half. We saw Roydell, Lawrence, Jalen, Cam, and Keziah in the ball game, and that continued in the second half outside of Jalen, which is another baffling question I have. 7 reps for Jalen Lucas, who was one of your top playmakers, at least in camp. Mark and Kurt, both a question to you both. Does using that, I mean, I'm a bigger proponent of finding 1 or 2 guys, get them lathered up, let them run, let them get a feel for the game. And here we are, first game of the year, and you're rotating 5 guys in and out of the backfield.
So what this tells me is that there's not a lot of separation, or there's no separation between any of those guys.
Is it that, or is it participation trophy time and everybody's going to play because we're
no, I think look, if one of those guys was better, if there was a separation, then you would see more guys. It tells me that there's not a lot of separation, or each one has real specific skill sets that they use for certain plays, which is dangerous because now teams will zero in. Hey, if he's in there, they're going to get this, and if that kind of thing, right?
Jalen Lucas can't be Mr. Jet Sweep, or that becomes a thing the defense is key in.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think they can all help them. I think they are all capable of making plays at this level. I mean, I don't think the run game didn't get going after the first drive really at all, but I don't think that was their fault. PFF says 64 of their, I think it was 104 sack adjusted rushing yards came after contact. I mean, they just did not have much room to operate.
No, there's no doubt.
Because there was extra guys around the ball, right?
Yep.
And that's where a back can help your offensive line. Like Toe Philly's touchdown, he made a guy miss on a blitz.
Yep.
And he was gone, right? And that's what good backs do. If you're outnumbered, a good back is going to make a miss. I mean, how many times did Ant Lee go in there against the 8-man blitz, 3 guys, and score a touchdown, right? A good back that makes guys miss when there's an unblocked guy is like gold. And none of those guys did it. So
look at Jalen. Jalen made a couple of, I think he had 3 touches, which is crazy to me. But he found green grass where it wasn't there, to your point, making overcoming the fact that they had an extra man in the box, or not accounted for, have a hat on a hat type of thing. So Kurt, I find, I don't know what that is. Anyway, so I was surprised that they didn't, based on what we saw. I thought that Jalen probably would have gotten the ball more. I would have liked to, Roydell started off nice, opened up the game nice. Toafili did. Listen, I don't know that it mattered in the outcome of the game, but I was a little bit surprised at the rotation. The snap count on those guys was particularly surprised with Jalen Lucas. Now, maybe he got dinged up. I don't know. We haven't got an injury report post-game, but that was interesting to me. All right, guys. Anyone, did you see anything out of the receiver core, particularly anybody stepping up as possibly the number 1 receiver in that room? We saw Malik had a nice catch, Kentron a nice catch. You got Ja'Kai involved in the passing game. We saw, I was surprised we didn't see more of Kyle Morlock in the pass. I don't know if he even caught a pass, Kurt. But one. Just coming out of camp, it certainly looked like Kyle was going to be a security blanket for both DJ and Brock based on how many times they threw to him in camp. So I was a little bit concerned that not concerned, but I was surprised that they didn't feature Kyle more in the passing game. But did you see? I mean, that last drive I think is what you're going to hold your hopes on in the passing game if you're an FSU fan. But did you see any of those guys step up?
I mean,
Kurt.
It's hard to say because it felt like they weren't given a lot of opportunities. I mean, they stepped up on that drive, You know, I mean, I think you look at the first half and then like you look at what was the amount of passes thrown that were thrown at running backs. I think the running backs had a combined 6 or 7 of DJ's, what was it, 16 completions? You know, I mean, I think we knew the running backs would be very involved, maybe not that involved. So I think that one drive was at least a little encouraging. I think, I mean, you know, those are some big clutch plays on the 2 4th downs and the 3rd and long. And so I don't know. I mean, I think we need to see it because maybe this team can't be as one-dimensional as they thought. We thought they could be. I think we thought they could be quite one-dimensional. Maybe they have to balance that a little more. So I think this next week is a interesting test for them, and it was a nice way to end it at the very least.
Yep. All right, Mark, we're going to slide over your area of specialty, the offensive line. Again, I don't think we need to belabor the point. 31 carries, 98 yards. Got knocked around a little bit. Obviously, some of that was scheme. We saw I notated a couple times, taping, making videos from my phone, watching the TV copy. You had a lot of times where they had an extra hat because they were rolling down the safety and those type of things. But what was your overall performance? I thought outside of Maurice Smith, I thought it was a very subpar day for everyone on that offensive line.
Yeah, I thought the guards did not play well. Richie had some moments, but TJ and Keandre Jones, just really they didn't give us much. And I know that they may have been banged up or whatever, but they got to play faster, harder. Byers had his moments, and I thought that Darius played okay. It was a few, and that Rob Scott one where he got beat inside. I think the guard was supposed to be there. I thought that was slide protection. And when
I did see him turn his head like he was after the play, like, "Hey, where the hell were you?"
Yeah, and if you look at, I think it was Richie. His eyes were inside. He was blocking with his body presence being in that gap, but his eyes were looking over here instead of looking out here. And so I don't think that was all on Rob. Is my point. And so I think there were some missed assignments. I think there were some confusion on some plays. It wasn't all physical.
Right.
These are things that got to get ironed out. Look, I'll say this about the offensive line, and I'm grateful, and I told him as much when I saw it because I got to do the player thing with the team, and I saw those guys. And I specifically told Darius, Maurice, and Ross, I'm grateful to those guys for sticking it out for 5 years and taking us from offensive line jail to where it's fairly competent. But now look, who are the guys who are going to take us from good to great, right? Who's going to do that? And it's incumbent upon Alex Atkins to get us from good to great. And we're good, but we're not great by any stretch. I remember when in my senior year we played Michigan State, and we won the game. But whose film we watched? Wayne McDuffie came in there and threw Michigan State's film on there. He goes, "I want you guys to watch an offensive line," and he put on, and that was Tony Mandrich. Remember the number 2 pick back in 1988, the incredible bulk, Sports Illustrated cover, right? That guy, and he just watched this guy. And he's just rolling Eric Hayes and Eric Crode and all these guys off the ball, just mauling them. And this would be a game where you would take Georgia Tech's film and say, "Watch this," because they rolled us off the ball, quite a bit. And that's that. I hate to say it, but that's exactly what happened. And so we have to find another level with these guys, right? And we got to get more from the guards, and we got to be more consistent. We got to have better communication. We can't have missed assignments. For the most part, the blitz pickup was halfway decent. The pass protection was halfway decent, right? I'm not going to bang on these guys too much, but they got to take it to another level.
Yeah, well, and the difference also would be that you would find yourself on the 5-man sled with McDuffie shortly after that meeting.
Well, you talked about Alex Atkins. I mean, is there a world where his absence was felt Saturday? Is there a world, and they're without him for the next 2 too? He's not back until game 4 against what is that, Cal? But I know a lot of confidence from FSU in Gabe Fertitta, but that was his first time as a FBS on the field sideline coach.
Yeah, Mark and I disagreed on this one.
Yeah, there's there's one less set of eyes, and that's important. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's not nothing. Okay. And that communication that usually happens between, I know Mike calls the plays, but I know when I was in that position that, I would hear from the coordinator, hey, give me a run, or I'm going to run this. What do you think? Great. Let's tag it with this because they're doing that, or let's run it out of this formation in this motion because it'll help take that, little things like that. And Mike's smart enough to get all that, but that flow of information was hampered because you had one less set of eyes and one less brain to kind of maybe see something and adjust something. And that's not insignificant.
Yeah, listen, I think they had plenty of time to prepare for this. He was with them on the trip. He was with them in the meetings leading up to this. He was the guy that set the tone for how this team played, this offensive line played. Did it make some difference? Yes. Do I think it was a difference in them winning or losing this ball game? Him not there. Gabe has worked with this crew just as much. That they split it up in practice. They're both working with half the offensive line, and they rotate them in and out.
I get it, but it's still one less set of eyes.
Yeah.
He was watching, just not from the sideline, able to talk to those guys, and that does mean something.
Now, let me ask you this. I don't think it really matters with as many senior analysts as you have now. But I do think that when they released the coaching assignments, there was no a full-time offensive assistant in the press box. Kurt, did that ring to be true? Did that play itself out? And Mark, do you think that makes a difference?
I can't say my priority was. I can't say I for sure confirmed that. I'll be honest. I was there alone, and I was doing the full pregame participation chart, so that was not my priority. I will find out Monday when we have the full crew there. It's definitely something we'll watch Monday night.
Yeah, I just didn't. I mean, I was surprised when they released that. Then I thought,
if that's true, it is a bit surprising.
Well, unless you got a headset on Rick Stockstill up in the press box, I don't know where Rick is during the game. I don't know if he can wear a headset, but they do have veteran assistants that theoretically could be up in the press box. Just that they're just not their own, not that they're on the field assistants. But Martin, does that make any difference to you?
Yeah. Yeah, you see things up there. I mean, you can see the whole picture and see how it all fits. That's a big deal to me.
Yeah, the last time we saw that was Boise State FSU 2019 when Willie didn't have any on defense in the box. So anyway, I don't know if it had anything to do with it or not, but since we talk about extra set of eyes, just having a full-time staff assistant, a full-time on-field coach matter. I thought I'd ask that question. All right, so what we're going to do, we've worked our way through the offense. We found a little light at the end of the tunnel for FSU off that last drive. We've broken it down. We've asked some questions, and we will take about a 70-second break, and we'll be right back to talk a little bit about defense and Ryan Fitzgerald's performance when we get back.
The Backshore. That stretch of fluffy sand just beyond the reach of the salty waves. The place reserved for volleyball nets, cookouts, and the air filled with fun and laughter. Celebrate the Backshore with Backshore Apparel. Grab an amazingly soft and comfy Backshore Apparel beach hoodie to keep you protected from the sun's harmful rays. Or the Backshore revamped trucker hat, a modern twist on a classic favorite. Crafted from moisture-wicking fabrics, ensuring they're lightweight and breathable. Not to mention durable with their unique floating feature. Shop now at BackshoreApparel.com. And right now, FSU fans get 10% off your order with code FSU10. Finding an experienced lawyer you can trust is crucial. With over 50 years of combined litigation experience, the attorneys at Mowry Law Firm are dedicated to providing our clients with exceptional legal services, focusing on car and trucking accidents, premises liability, and wrongful death. Call 904-824-7799, MowryLaw.com. Hey Seminole fans, Alumni Hall is your ultimate FSU shopping experience and has moved to a new location off Timberlane Road in Tallahassee. Shop FSU gear from Nike, Champion, New Era, Yeti, and more. Alumni Hall has Seminole gear for the entire family, plus accessories and gifts. Spend $150 and you'll earn $10 off your next purchase with their Hall Pass rewards. Stop by their new location on Timberlane Road near REI or shop anytime online at alumnihall.com. Alumni Hall, where Seminole fans shop.
Welcome back to the Osceola Seminole Sidelines. We'd, of course, like to thank Backshore Apparel, Alumni Hall, and Mowry Law for sponsoring our show. And, guys, we're going to move over to the other side of the ball. We've talked a little bit of coming into the show. Obviously, Kurt, you and I have addressed it. I've addressed it on the Saturday's post-game show. We've addressed it starting with this show. Let's start up front with the defensive line. Certainly not what we saw, not what anybody saw coming into this season. Not any one person that came to practice expected to see what happened to this defensive line. A lot of things surprised me, but particularly that this group was able to get blown off the ball as easily as it did. And there were some dumbfounding calls, particularly the first goal line call where you had two defensive tackles lined up in the B gap and your A gap defenders lined up in 4 yards in the end zone. We'll talk about that as we get into it. But I'm going to we'll get Mark's opinion too. But you saw him all year in practice or preseason as I did. I can't tell you how disappointed I was to see that performance from the defensive line. Shocked. I mean, that was the word that I used in Saturday's show. Absolutely shocked. What were your thoughts?
Shocked is a good word. I think we thought they had two future NFL, and they may still have two future NFL pass rushers who just had bad days. But I think the entire defensive line had no sacks and 6 pressures. PFF said Pat Payton had no pressures, and I think I'll be honest, watching it live, I didn't notice Pat Payton much. Pat Payton kind of disappeared to me watching in that game, and it seems like rewatch was much of the same. I think Marvin Jones Jr. had 2 pressures, and he had one. He almost got home on that one, and Haynes King delivered a great throw right as he was bearing down on him, because of course he did. But yeah, I think the lack of impact in the passing game was surprising. I think the lack of impact in the rushing. I think only 3 tackles for loss. So I mean, it's not like they were better in that area and just struggled in getting home with the pass rush. I think generally I was surprised for a defensive line that we thought had 4 NFL starters. I wasn't going to say I wasn't amongst them saying probably most talented or most NFL talent in the country in terms of best starting 4, but I thought they were quite good, and they still might be quite good, but they were not good Saturday.
Yeah, listen, played too high. I mean, played with zero energy. Really, I mean, there's so many plays where they're just getting rolled off the ball. Listen, I'm not going to say they did, to Mark's point, I'm not going to say they didn't play with effort, but they didn't match the effort and intensity of Georgia Tech's offensive line. We saw, Farmer and Jackson did not play. I had my notes was played on skates. I was a little bit surprised after what we saw in preseason camp that we saw 0 snaps for Tommy Durajay, 0 snaps for KJ Sampson. That has to be either injury, illness, or discipline related, because we saw a ton of good practice out of them in preseason camp.
To me, that's Georgia Tech only ran 52 plays. Like that's a low play count. I think has to be considered as part of it. I think if that gets towards 60 or 70, you might have seen them, but they didn't go below 2 deep anywhere on defense. I think at least part of that is the play count.
Well, I get that the play count wasn't very high, but the production value you were getting out of those 2 guys was not very good. I mean,
it's true. You maybe should have considered making a change at some point, just out of like what's going on is not getting it done right now.
I mean, Grady Kelly played more than Durajay or Sampson. That's and nothing against Grady Kelly, but he didn't have the camp those 2 did. I just wonder if there's something going on. Again, we'll probably hear about injuries. Were they sick? Were they hurt? But they certainly they certainly earned reps based off what we saw in camp, and I was shocked that they didn't play. Mark, just your thoughts on the defensive tackles?
Well, let's talk about what you guys brought up first, the pressures. How many times do we actually have them in 3rd long? Not many. And when they did, yeah. And so I remember, like on the first one, and the ball was out quick. They ran a little mesh concept against man coverage, and guy came open, and he 1, 2, 3, boom, he was gone, right? So we didn't get him in many situations where Marvin and Pat could just tee off on a pass rush, and when they did, oftentimes they kept the back end or they had help, right? So they did a great job of scheming and game planning. That's number one. To your point, Pat, allowing, I remember we ran our first counter on offense, and I think it was KJ got jacked up where Richie Leonard had to bubble around him on pulling on the counter. I don't think that ever happened with our defensive line. We never really established it. So number one, they did a great job on the double teams. We talked about this leading into the game. You said if I was the offensive line coach, how would I mitigate the effectiveness of these monster defensive tackles that we have? What I say, facilitate double teams and create angles, right? And they did both. They double teamed the crap out of them, and that meant the linebackers had to get somebody was loose if there's two guys on one, and they did excellent on their double teams. To your point, we were too high and we're slow off the ball, and that helps them, right? So then they ran a bunch of counters where they're down blocking or there's eye candy going one way or the other. And then when it all breaks down, they pull the ball and Haynes King runs, right?
Yeah.
So that's it is what it is. They did not play well.
It felt like they underestimated Haynes King's speed on all those edge runs. They felt like they could get to him before he turned the edge, and he beat him to the edge every time and got at least 4 yards.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think they underestimated him. I think
bad
they're
angles,
just not in great position. Yeah, bad angles.
Yeah,
bad positions.
Yep.
You know, so, look, there's a lot of blame to go around on the defense. I think the defensive performance on all three levels.
Yep.
There's massive improvement that can happen because they got film to look at now.
Yeah.
Right? They can say, hey, you should be here. You got to see this quicker, you know, and, you know, the in-game adjustments I was a little disappointed in, you know. So, yeah, I mean, it was all of it.
Yeah.
Disappointed to good word.
Yeah, and the defensive end front, you know, I agree with you, Kurt. You didn't see Patrick Payton; he was a non-factor in this game, which totally surprised me. Listen, and he's
how many times did they run that jet sweep action, right? And most of the times it was to his side. They ran that jet sweep action, and he's over there having to check the stinking make sure that jet sweep, you know, the ball wouldn't hand it off, right? Yep. So he's playing the jet sweep, and that mitigated him. They knew those guys were athletic, and so they did things to make sure to neutralize their speed.
And then listen, I think Marvin Jones Jr. I think he got indoctrinated to a hands down full-time defensive end. I will stack that up to his first game. We did see good things for him in the preseason. Now I will say this: Sione Lalehi is just based on effort alone deserves more reps. He plays hard. He only played 13 reps, but I think you need his veteran presence. He is a veteran guy. He's played a lot of football for Oregon State. Is he the athlete that those other two guys are? No, but he is a proven major college football player. And I would have the rep split a lot closer to 50-50 with Marvin Jones Jr. heading into this Boston College game. And I'm not sure I would not start Sione over Marvin Jones and let Marvin grow into that position. I know we got some people think that he needs to move over and back up Patrick and then move Tommy back out. But yeah, I think Sione's earned some space. And listen, at the defensive tackle spot, I do want to say this. I thought Daniel Lyons, who played 22 snaps, played hard. He was chasing the ball. It wasn't. I don't want to just beat down this team to death because there were some bright spots everywhere. Unfortunately, it was not your starters, right? We're talking about Lalehi being the guy that really came to play at defensive end, played hard, pursued hard. Same thing with Daniel Lyons. But I was a little bit shocked, and I would like to. It's going to be interesting to find out what the story is with Durjay and Sampson not playing at all, particularly given the way Farmer and Jackson were playing, which was not very well. I'm a little bit surprised. So I'm going to be interested in finding out what Mike says on Wednesday when he meets with the press, and when we see him practice, are those guys there? Because I was dumbfounded by that. All right, so listen, I don't know how to get it, and I know we're probably all going to say, and it's true, that the linebacker play was impacted by some of what happened up front on defense, and some of it was impacted by really, really good scheming by Georgia Tech and by poor eye discipline by Florida State. But guys, coming out of this game, I think they need to start Nicholson. I thought I think he was the more physical of the bunch. When they went to the 4-3 linebacker, he would take on the tight end. He showed up some. But I think I think it's 20-18-10. I think that's what you got. We did not see Justin Cryer, which was a little bit of a surprise. But, listen, I thought all the guys had rough games, but I think there needs to be some adjustments there, either reps or starters. What are y'all's thoughts on the linebacker? Kurt, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think. I mean, thank you, Peter, for the question about the linebackers, and because I do think that when you look at the defense, might be the single most concerning thing with. I mean, I think the roles they played in missed tackles, in wide open receivers, of coverage responsibilities not handled well, and in filling the wrong gap and getting sucked into blockers and just getting out of plays to open up running lanes that turned like those second level runs into third level runs. We saw that, I think, far too many times Saturday. Yeah, I'm fascinated to see how we see an adjustment of the linebacker rotation, because like you said, we only saw 4 of them, right? Because they did. I mean, I will say it was going bad enough at one point that they were bringing on 3. There was one drive in particular, I know they played a decent amount of 3 linebackers. They moved to more of a 4-3, and still it wasn't stopping what Georgia Tech was able to do with the run game. So does it come down to which linebackers you're playing? Does it come down to, I mean, I think I don't think this team has a Kalen DeLoach, but I think you can make the case the closest thing they have to a Kalen DeLoach is Blake Nicholson in terms of mobility, in terms of playmaking ability, in terms of coverage ability. I think he is young, and there would be growing pains with doing it. But I mean, do you need to go through those growing pains? Because I mean, what was on the field Saturday can't suffice either. Is the problem. I mean, I don't want to make it a personal thing, but I was stunned that, I mean, DJ Lundy played 41 plays, Omar Graham played 36. And with what we saw from Omar Graham, him playing that many plays was a very high number. And I don't want to, it's not a personal thing, but it was rough.
Yeah.
There's a lot to coach off of on that film.
Yeah.
Okay. There were several times, you know, look, we banged on the defense Venezuela, but I saw Peyton and Marvin stick the edge pretty good on some of those counters, and there's nobody coming around. You know, we're looks like we're trying to spill it and let the linebackers read over the top, and they're just not getting there, right? And a lot of that has to do with, you know, some of the like I said, the jet sweep motion, and we did it too, but they seem to be able to handle it, right? They handled it pretty decent on their side. Here's the other thing: watch their tight end on the tight end counter. Just go back and watch the film. Watch their tight end. That joker was killing folks. And Kyle Morlock needs to go watch that guy. That's how you block on the tight end counter. That joker was wrecking guys, and a lot of times it was number 9, you know. But it was also the safety that we cut there late or something. You know what I mean? So yeah, look, you got to give Georgia Tech a lot of credit. Our guys, they didn't stay blocked, and we did. We didn't get off blocks real well, and that's the bottom line.
Brent Key is quite a big game coach. You know the stat about him now, right? He took over late 2022 or mid 2022. Yeah, they're 5-0 straight up against ranked ACC teams since he took over.
Yeah. We got a question. Can NIL be revoked for lack of effort? I don't think that's in the contract. It's a good question.
If Georgia's reducing it for speeding tickets or for parking, like for bad driving, then it feels like we might be in a war. Who knows?
Well, then you could give out.
It's not pay for play.
You could give out tickets for not going full speed. Yeah, I think that's what he's asking.
Tickets in the facility. Yeah, they give out tickets for underspeed, like going too far below the speed limit.
Yeah, yes, that's right. But yeah,
citations.
Yeah, I would like.
Seriously, it's not pay for play, and if you start making that precedent, good luck.
No, you can't actually do that. 100% not.
No, yeah. But yeah, I would like to see after what I saw Saturday. I would like to see Blake get some of those reps that maybe he's not getting. As I said, 17 for Blake, 35 for Graham, 18 for Wiley, 28 for Lundy. So those are your linebackers.
41 for Lundy, I thought.
Yeah, 40. What did I say?
28.
Oh, 27 for. I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing.
You're good. Yeah, I was just Lundy played the most, and like was Lundy 100%? Was Lundy 100%? That's the other part.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Listen, I don't think Lundy's been 100% all camp. I think that and I think that's another reason maybe you get Blake in there because he can run, and Riley in there because he can run. And listen, I just one was bad as a group. If you go back to that first touchdown, you got 3 guys, including 2 linebackers, that have A-gap responsibility that are running with the motion. You can't have that, and you can't have that defensive play call. By the way, that they come in and bring in a backup quarterback in. They you're on the 1 yard line and you're not going to have an A-gap defender lined up anywhere close to the ball. So I don't know, man. I think they got some work to do there. It was a question mark coming in, and I think it's still a question mark coming out of this game. The secondary guys, listen, I think it's hard to get a good read on unless I didn't study a lot of Fintrell and AZ and run support. I paid attention more towards the safeties, and I think they got some question marks at safety. I think they got a lot of improvement to do. Bad angles at times, guys, not very physical. Mark, you mentioned it, talking about the way the safeties for the Yellow Jackets buzzed down towards the line of scrimmage. What were y'all's thoughts? I thought that I thought we'd see more Conrad Hussey than we did Devontae Brown. Devontae played 28. It was about equal, 28 and 24. I was expecting a little bit more out of Devontae being a veteran player. Did not think he played great. And listen, I think you got to get better. I think they got to be more physical from both safeties and run support. Mark.
Yeah, I mean, look, let me qualify my comment about watching their safeties. It was a different. Keep in mind, it's a different scheme, and they inserted them in different places. Like they were inserting them in the A's and B gaps, and we're more inserting our guys in the B gaps and outside, right? So our inserts were a little bit different. But bottom line is, it was a little slower, right? I don't know what they're taught or what their responsibilities are, so I got to qualify that. All that being said, like I remember, like on the first outside zone, that first big run they had, it was an outside zone that they cut it back, and there's nobody in that backside gap, right? And part of that was, the backside defensive tackles, giving up too much ground where he can get into the line of scrimmage, and the other part of that was there's nobody there to cover that gap, and that was the responsibility of the safety. So that happened numerous times. So, again, there's film to coach off of. Those are things that can be corrected. Those are things that can be accounted for. Adam Fuller's a smart guy. All right, he's not a dummy, and he and Pat Surtain, they'll get it right. They got something to coach off of. They'll get better. But again, outside of Shaim, everybody else is pretty much a new guy. These are things that these are going to be some growing pains that we got. Look, 13-0 is a rare thing. Anybody thought that we were going to do that again, it was fooling themselves, But and look, I said it in my pregame comment, right? Heavy is the head that wears the crown. We're going to get everybody's best shot. Now, Georgia Tech's been scheming this game since January last year, and so that's something to really take into account too. I'm sure we did too.
And that'll be the same. That'll be the same with Boston College.
Same with Boston College. It's going to be, we're going to get everybody's best shot. So you just be ready for it. And we're going to have to match that intensity. We're going to have to impose our will on people. We got to, on defense, we got to get off blocks. We got to get to places fast. We got to have eye discipline. All those things that it takes time to learn and rep. And Pat, you said it. It's until you play full speed tackle football, some of these things don't necessarily manifest themselves until the bullets are live.
Yep. Well, listen, they'll have to play better. I mean, that's the good thing, right? We know they're going to play better. Mike's not going to tolerate what we saw on Saturday, next Monday night. Now, how much better can they get? We'll find out. Now, listen, I think we do have to talk. We've kind of ignored the guy that was the one bright spot, shining bright, and that's Fitzgerald. 2 field goals of over 50 yards. Now, that kept FSU in the ball game and special teams. Really, you had the fake extra point, which got you extra additional 2 points. So your special teams accounted for 8 of your 21 points, which I don't think we would have thought coming into this game that they were going to basically account for 35% of your points in that game. But listen, outstanding game. I don't think you want to have to count on 2 50-yard field goals every week to keep you in the ball game. But certainly what John Papagis and Carter Barfield game plan on the extra point was a huge benefit in that game because you don't have a chance to win it with a field goal. Yeah, right. It gave you a chance. And and Fitzgerald was outstanding. Now, Kurt, I got a quick you'll know this better than I will.
Okay.
All right, so FSU, as of today, and I guess there's not a new poll coming out till next Tuesday.
No.
Will FSU be the first winless team to be ranked in the top 10 in the history of college football?
What you like? I don't follow.
All right,
like when it comes out next week.
All right, they're going to play another game before it comes out, right? So it won't come out till after there's a
it comes out I think Tuesday.
Yes. All right, so they're going to be the first. I don't know if they're the first, but they would be one of the few.
I mean, I guess, there's not an update. So like
it's a weird anomaly.
Week 0. It's still the preseason. It's still the preseason polls. So like, I mean, I guess, maybe no, because I have to imagine. I mean, I wonder if like a top 10 team has lost in week 0. I don't know. It's interesting.
I was thinking about that today.
Make sure you're not 0-2 because then you won't be in that top 25 at all. That's what I say to
that. Well, I think it's fast. I was going to say it's still a positive. Florida State is still a top 10 team. So
I'm not going to be touting that one this week. I think I might leave that out of my stories.
All right, guys. We went a little bit over an hour, which we said we would not do, but listen, we love talking football. And listen, if you're not an Osceola subscriber, please go to theosceola.com. We still have all of our post-game coverage on the front page. I know Jerry and Bob are working on columns today. I don't know if they're up yet. I know that they will be up soon. If they're not, we will have Takeaway Tuesdays tomorrow. Mike will talk to the media on Wednesday, and we will have we'll do a live show, and I think it may be Kurt and Bob on Wednesday talking about what Mike had to say and reviewing kind of the reaction that his coordinators had coming off film study and getting back over here in the States and starting to get this team prepared. If you don't subscribe to the Osceola U channel, my dog is trying to make an appearance on the show now. Please subscribe to the Osceola YouTube channel, hit the notification button so that you will get updates when we do live and tape shows. But guys, hey, listen, we got week 1 in the books. We will be back tomorrow with Takeaway Tuesday at 3 p.m. on Seminole Sidelines. We'll have Reeling Them In with Charles Fishbein, so we'll talk recruiting and some of more of my reaction and thoughts moving forward and backward from this game. Then we'll be back Wednesday with what Mike has to say. Thursday, we may move Thursday's show to Sunday just because there's a Monday game. We'll let you know about that. But thanks for joining us, Mark. Thanks for taking time out of your time in Dublin. Tell Julie we appreciate it.
Right.
And
only midnight.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's not too late to go get another Guinness tonight.
That's right. That's right. And Kurt, get some sleep, buddy. I know you got that jet lag fixing to hit you, but I appreciate you hopping on with us.
Hey, always a pleasure, guys.
All right, guys. Y'all have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon.
Go Noles.